Hello, I'm Jay Lerner, the Inspector General for the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation, the FDIC. We're pleased to announce the recent issuance of our report on the FDIC's sharing of threat information to guide the supervision of financial institutions. Banks face a wide range of threats to their operations, including cyber attacks, money laundering, terrorist financing, pandemics, and natural disasters. The interconnected nature of financial services in this country amplifies the potential impact of such threats, and the consequences of these threats may significantly affect the safety and soundness of numerous financial institutions, as well as the stability of the nation's financial system. The U.S. government, including the FDIC, gathers and has access to a significant volume of financial data about threats facing our banks. The FDIC should develop processes to ensure that this vital information is shared with its personnel, such as FDIC policymakers, bank examiners, supervisory personnel, and regional office staff, so that the data may be used in an actionable and timely manner. Effective sharing of threat information enriches situational awareness, supports informed decision-making, and guides supervisory strategies and policies. Our office conducted a review to determine whether the FDIC had established effective and efficient processes to share threat information with its personnel. I'm joined here today by Terry Gibson, our Assistant Inspector General for Audits, Evaluations, and Cyber, and Joseph Nelson, an Audit Manager, who will discuss the findings and recommendations in this report.
Thank you, Jay. We found that the FDIC did not establish effective processes to acquire, analyze, disseminate, and use relevant and actionable threat information to guide the supervision of financial institutions. Specifically, the FDIC did not establish a written governance structure to guide its threat information sharing activities, did not complete, approve, and implement a governance charter that established a common understanding of the role for the FDIC's intelligence support program or defined an overall strategy and requirements for it, did not develop goals, objectives, or measures to guide the performance of its intelligence support program, did not establish adequate policies and procedures that define roles and responsibilities for key stakeholders involved in the threat information sharing program and activities, and did not fully consider threat information sharing in its enterprise risk inventory and risk profile. We also identified gaps in the FDIC's processes for acquiring, analyzing, and disseminating threat information, and in its processes for obtaining feedback from stakeholders regarding how the use of threat information can be improved. Joe Nelson, the audit manager on this project, will explain these gaps in more detail.
Thank you, Terry. The FDIC's threat information sharing activities may be organized into 4 life cycle components. First, acquiring relevant and actionable threat information. Second, analyzing threat information to determine how it can support programs, operations, and decision-making. Third, disseminating threat information to relevant stakeholders who need it. And fourth, obtaining feedback from stakeholders regarding the usefulness of the threat information. First, with regard to acquisition, the FDIC did not develop written procedures for determining its threat information requirements. The FDIC also did not engage all relevant stakeholders when it developed its threat information needs. As a result, the FDIC has limited assurance that it will acquire all the relevant threat information to support its business, operations, and programs. In addition, existing federal regulations do not require banks to promptly report destructive cyber incidents that could threaten the safety and soundness of insured financial institutions. Therefore, the FDIC may not know about such incidents in a timely manner, and thus, the agency cannot adjust its supervisory strategy to address these risks at the affected bank, nor can it assess the threats and warn other banks about the cyber threat. Second, the FDIC did not establish procedures to guide its analysis of threat information. the FDIC relied solely on the discretionary judgment of certain individuals to determine the extent to which threat information should be analyzed to support FDIC business needs and the supervision of financial institutions. Without procedures, there's limited assurance that the threat analysis the FDIC performs is consistent and sufficient to address the needs of its stakeholders. Third, the FDIC also did not develop procedures for disseminating threat information. Absent such procedures, decisions regarding what to disseminate, to whom, and when are left solely to the discretion of a few individuals, which could lead to inconsistent or untimely communications. The FDIC required its senior FDIC officials around the country to hold high-level security clearances so they could access classified information in performing their duties. However, the FDIC had not even established an infrastructure that would allow for such secure handling of information to the senior FDIC officials, including the secure dissemination, communication, use, storage, and disposition of classified information. And fourth, the FDIC also did not establish a procedure to obtain feedback from recipients of threat information to assess its utility and effectiveness. We also identified gaps in the FDIC's management of threat information sharing, including not establishing backup personnel for its senior intelligence officer position, or plans for an absence or departure of the SIO, not establishing minimum training requirements for the SIO position, not obtaining required security clearances for certain FDIC senior officials as specified in their position descriptions, and not categorizing unclassified threat information managed by the SIO consistent with security standards and the guidance issued by the National Institute of Standards and Technology. We made 25 recommendations to the FDIC to address the weaknesses identified. Back to you, Jay.
Thank you, Joe and Terry. The findings in this report are comprehensive, and our recommendations will improve the FDIC's ability to share relevant threat information with key personnel in an actionable and timely manner. It will also help to protect our nation's critical financial institutions and services against such threats. To view this report and our other oversight work, please visit our website at fdicoig.gov, and you can follow us on Twitter at FDIC_OIG. Thank you for joining us today.